Yeah,
Summing it
thank
up, Chris, what was your final take on the way in which Port Adelaide went through the trade period?
Oh, look, we're pleased to have improved our draft position in the first round. Happy to end the trade period specifically with what we have, and we move on now to the second phase of the period, which is obviously the draft. Historically, we've tried to look at this as a whole. It's not just one part, the trade or the draft. It's something that you look at as a whole, and I think we've got a good opportunity to continue to improve our list.
Last time we were here, you said no Port player had asked to be traded. Were you surprised by Laddams in the end?
Not really. I mean, those, you ask me at a point in time if that's happened, after those conversations, things evolve, whether it be other clubs coming in and looking to prize players out, or an evolution of conversations that happen between list managers, through the next period of time. Not surprised at all. Equally, obviously, we went through a similar situation with Sam Powell-Pepper. But we think we've ended, this particular phase in a very good spot to now attack the draft.
Jason Cripps said on radio this morning that the talk of Port Adelaide, O'Meara, Mitchell and so forth never ever happened. What was the situation with those two, or getting any player from Hawthorn?
I think that's for you and your cohort to surmise about how those things actually come up through this period. There's so much discussion at the moment about, players going to different areas. We didn't have one conversation with Hawthorn about any of their players. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that's exactly what happened. So, this, as I say, saturation of coverage, I imagine that people just need to talk about potential deals as much as anything, but we've been really clear about the way that we think we're going to get better. And you've got a choice at this point. You might look and think that something shiny and new from outside is fantastic, or you can take the approach of suggesting that you might have the answers to the questions actually already here at the club.
So you're backing in development of your own players, in particular in the midfield?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we absolutely are. We just said from the start, once the disappointment of the prelim final happened, that we needed to work out the way that we were going to get better. I suggest that we do have players who are of high talent, who haven't had the greatest number of opportunities to play in that area of the ground on our list at the moment. So, as I say, we can look at what we potentially could have brought in, and we were interested throughout the year in bringing in some high quality players into the club. But right now we think that there's significant improvement in those guys who have either been picked 5, 12 or 16 in the draft, or a father-son selection, or potentially now pick 12 that can help us into the future.
Was Finlayson an unexpected bonus, and what does he bring now that you've got him here?
Well, there's not too many times where a guy who's kicked 40 plus goals in an AFL season becomes available for a future third round selection. So, our challenge now is he's clearly got talent. Our opportunity now is for our coaches to get him into a position where he's once again a really consistent, high performing AFL footballer. The talent is there. Our challenge is to get that out of him, but he's a forward who can second ruck. We think he's a better forward, potentially than that position that we've had in the past. We think that Sam Hayes is a guy from a pure ruck perspective who needs to be given an opportunity as well. So I think for us it was a win-win situation. Jeremy wanted to come to South Australia. We knew that there was potential for one of those types of players to go out of our club. We got it done, which gave us some flexibility in the end.
You talk about trying to get the best out of Jeremy. In what area is that the coaches are trying to get? Is it a fitness thing or a mindset thing, or what do you need to get the best?
Well, we wouldn't mind seeing him at the club first, Max, before we start to look at that. I think that ultimately, as I say, he's a player of high talent who has performed well at AFL level. We're going to have to work out the way that he fits into our system, and we'll see that once he starts training with us. But I think it's fair to say that we would like to think that there's an extra level of fitness that can be put into him through the pre-season, and maybe just more opportunity.
With Hayes, is he is he the sort of person that could play that role that Laddams or Finlayson has or will play in the team, or is he a pure first ruck type player?
Yeah, I think right now his football at SANFL level has been purely as the number one ruck. I think that he has some extreme capability right now to be a really good ruckman into the future. We probably right now see him as vying with Lysett for the number one ruck role. Lysett is clearly our number one, but Sam Hayes has done everything that we could have asked of him at the level below in order to position himself well, and we think now is the time to give him that opportunity.
How significant do you see the gap of the player you might get at pick 12 to pick 16?
Yeah, well, significant enough to make that the part of the deal that we were interested in from day one. I mean, I was pretty clear with everyone that was going to be something that we were looking to achieve through all of this. So, that was, the bedrock of what we wanted out of any deal that we did with Sydney for Peter. We were able to achieve that. And I think, get something into the future, which is a good outcome for us as well. But, 16 into 12, our recruiting guys right now would say that that's a significant win for us.
What kind of player will you be looking for in the draft with that pick? Any type of player in mind?
I look at, again, you look, we wanted to trade up the order in order to have, I guess, the greatest flexibility of picking a type as well as a player of high talent, but typically we just go for the player that we think is the best particular player at that level of the draft. But we also do have a mindset that there are parts of the ground for us at the moment where we have some pretty significant depth, and so we have to be mindful of that. But at the same time, I think right now we're just going to be picking the best player.
And I know you had no conversations with Hawthorn, but we attempted at all to look for an established probably a more established midfielder in the draft. Did anybody nearly come up or
through the trade period?
Yeah, through trade period. Sorry.
I think it's pretty well known. We had a decent crack at Zach Merritt last year. We had some interest in some other players who obviously didn't work out as well. But as I said, you can look at what you think might be better from other clubs, or you take the approach of saying, we've got some guys who are of high talent who are already on our list who just need some exposure. And, that's really the level of discussion that our list management group, our recruiting team, our coaches actually look and say, well, maybe we just need to put some extra work in some players who we think can take us into the future. And ultimately that's the decision we make. Clearly, time will tell whether that's the right decision or not. But I think we've got a pretty good record lately of suggesting that there are some players within our group who can grow, and giving them an opportunity is as much as important, as what it is just bringing in another player from another club who just might add to the list of depth, rather than actually giving you a real kick up from a performance perspective.
Chris, who have you got out of contract, and who have you already made a decision on?
Well, yeah, look, the trade period and now it can be a tumultuous time for people. I think Stephen Motlop's out of contract, but I imagine that gets done over the next period of time. Then Jared Leanett, Sam Mays, Trent Burgoyne, Boyd Woodcock, who are out of contract at the moment, who we're going to have to make decisions on over the next couple of weeks. We spoke to all of those guys about hanging in with us through the trade period, and we'll look to make those decisions from here.
From a numbers perspective, like list-wise, is there a number? Can you re-sign all of them?
Look, you've got to make 3 changes on your primary list. So I think that with the retirements that we've had and the guys who we've already delisted, we'll have to make those. Marty Frederick's another one who we've recontracted, so we'll have to work out which list we're going to put him on as well. But we'll have made enough changes in line with the AFL. Obviously, we've got Big 12, we've got some later picks that we're obviously looking at using in different ways. But that'll all play out over the next period of time. We might even look at a delisted free agent. But as I say, that will work out in conjunction with those contract decisions that we need to make on those other guys.
In terms of those blokes who can step in and play in the midfield that you want to see that growth from, have you and the coaches got a sort of hierarchy in your mind of, if you put the 3 boys together who were drafted and named Jackson, Mead, do you have a hierarchy of who of that 4 perhaps that is best suited to being in there from round 1 next year?
there's no hierarchy. I mean, the other person that you need to consider in all of that as well is Sam Pepper. Yeah, Sam came into our club and played some significant footy in the first 2 years. He's had some troubles in his off season over the last couple of years that I would suggest right now he needs to fix if he really wants to become a midfielder, which was the conversation that we had with both him and his manager through this trade period. Then there's some things that Sam needs to do better as well, and I'm not going to hide from that. That's something that we put on the table right now. You'll all get to see whether Sam has a proper commitment to play at AFL level through what he does through this pre-season. So he's one who clearly has played at the level before and I think can play more time in there this year. But then I just think that what will happen through the off-season and the pre-season is those guys will sort their own hierarchy. We really want to see Connor, Butsy, Durs and Bergman get some more opportunity. They've all played in the midfield through their junior years. They've been on the periphery of the midfield, during their time at the club so far. But they're picks 5, 12, 16 and 12. We've got Jackson Mead, who was a father-son at, let's say, pick 20 or whatever it was in the end. We're going to have another opportunity to add some high talent here. We just need to give those guys more opportunity, and if you're talking about a hierarchy, they'll sort that out themselves, and the coaches will have no alternative but to give whoever it is that does well, as Willem Drew did last year. Don't forget, Drewy was keeping Rocky out of the team at the start of the year. So, we've been open to making those changes where we need to.
Do you think Sam is equipped to rise to that sort of challenge, I suppose, that you and the club has set him?
Pep?
Yep.
Well, that's his challenge. Do I think? Of course, we've supported Sam in many situations so far. His challenge is in front of him now. We can't do anything about what's happened previously, but if he really wants to play in the midfield, which we have a need for that type of player to continue to take some steps forward, then that'll be his challenge from here on in, and we'll see how committed he is to playing in the midfield by the way that he comes back in pre-season. So, don't miss that.
So does that suggest that it's more off-field stuff with Sam rather than stuff on the field that you're kind of challenging him?
I mean, look, you don't need to read between the lines with anything I'm saying. You know me well enough to know that I'm straight up and down. This situation is really clear. Sam needs to come back in a fitter state than what he has previously. And if he does that, then he's got every chance, just like those others, to play in our midfield.
I just wanted to ask one more thing on Rosie, Butters, Durs. They all need to be contracted this year. Is this their last year of their deals? Is that correct, or am I wrong?
No, I think you're right.
So is the club in a position to have those three? I think Carl as well. Like, have you guys sort of? I imagine you would have been planning for this year for a while out. In
terms of being able to,
yeah,
we'd like to keep them all. So our challenge will be to come to terms with them when the time comes as to whatever contracts both they and the club want into the future. We'll be under no financial pressure to get those deals done. Through this trade period, we've been able to reduce our total TPP spend with some of the changes that we've made. Our TPP has been well managed for the last 5 or 6 years. We're in a position where we should be able to retain those guys if both they want to stay and also the club wants to keep them.
On Pete, could he have returned to the club after the? Do you think the bridges have been burnt too far, or could he return?
No, I think we're past that. I mean, I've seen a fair bit of discussion around whether players can come back. Again, the question would have been if a player is looking for an alternative club, is the club's responsibility to have them back as well. I think those things work in swings and roundabouts. I don't have any doubt that Pete could have returned, just like Sam will return, just like Pete returned last year, just like Carl Amon returned 3 or 4 years ago, just like Ollie Wines returned 2 years ago. I think we're past that. And I suggest that you guys should get past that as well. This is, the trade period can be tumultuous. I get that. But I don't think you ever get to a point where bridges are burnt that far. It's been well documented now that Ken had a conversation with Pete with regard to the potential for him to come back. I think Pete was more than willing to come back if the deal couldn't get done. As it was, it got done, so there's no real need to look back. But I think these things just happen now. A player looks for more opportunity, a club looks to better themselves. These things can happen.
Yeah. You did you had Tyson Goldstack as a rookie last year in the kind of development coach role. Will you look at consider doing something similar this year?
We might. Goldie was pretty keen to retire by the end of last year again. I think he copped some grief at Prospect this year, where someone yelled over the boundary for him to hurry up and retire, and he returned and said, I'm trying. So look, whoever we put in that position, if we put in that position, we'd like them to be able to still contribute to us at SANFL level at least, but we haven't made that decision. I imagine that in line with those contract discussions and also the delisted free agent type discussion, we'll consider whether we need that or not. But right now, we're really pleased with where our coaching group has ended up.
Is Hamish an option in that?
Well, I mean, without talking for Hamish, I think that right now Hamish's priority is to continue to play. So we don't have that option right now on our AFL list. So, and we've been really clear that wasn't a path that we were going to go down with Hamish at the time.
You mentioned the later picks earlier. When do you sit down with Jace Burgoyne and work out that kind of nomination?
Yeah, I mean that'll happen over the next. I think that needs to be done maybe over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But yeah, in line with whatever dates the AFL suggests they need to happen. But it was important to get through this, the trade period, so that we can really assess our list, assess it in the context of the players who are out of contract as well. And have those discussions. I mean, Jace, in fairness to him, Jace has got a decision to make himself, as does the club. This will be a mutual decision, whatever happens. We've liked what Jace has done. He's played some good SANFL footy for us. We think he's done some good things at junior level. He hasn't probably had as many opportunities at a senior league level at the Eagles, but he's a good enough player for us to consider, definitely, and we'll do that over the next few weeks.